Hi, my name is John Teeters, and this is my video tour of my professional e-portfolio. And in the designing of my site, I really wanted to make it personal, mostly because that's the way I think teaching and mentoring works. It's all about building relationships. If you don't have relationships in a personal aspect, then I think you're really missing out on opportunities to nurture students and other people along in the process. And so my biggest goal was to create a portfolio that reflected my who I am in the process, so that somebody would not only see what I'm able to do, but also get to know a little bit about me and who I am. On the very first page, I was a little bit challenged by how to use the general info tab. I wasn't certain if that was intended for me to use, but I thought I would fill it with something productive. So here's a picture of me when I first started the program, and I made a word bubble that shows a lot of the things I value and attributes that I try to have as part of my way of acting in the classroom. At the bottom of the page, I've included an advance button to go to the next page of the presentation. So my candidate information is really an interesting page because it really reflects a lot about what I think the distance learning program has meant for me. I'm an international teacher. I have been living in Israel for the time of this process, and all of the pictures are on the page are me in different locations around the world. The picture of that I have in the banner wearing my Fort Hays State University virtual university T-shirt is me and Petra, Jordan. It's just across the border, and it's an opportunity that I have because of where I live, and being a part of the distance learning program has allowed me to do many things while I'm still involved in a rigorous education. So going through the page, family always comes first for me, and so that's why I include pictures of my children and their spouses and my wife. Just a short background of who I am and where I come from in Portland, Oregon, and also some things about me, educational facts. Also following is my career goals, what I'd like to see happen as a result of my degree process, my MIT process, how I'd like to see that integrated into my future. And then my personal goals of what I'd like to do while I'm teaching. And looking into the future, 3 years forward, working in another international school in yet a country to be determined. 5 years and longer back in the US, working in a private school or a small rural school, probably in Oregon. And by 10 years, hopefully I'll be retired, but working in some other field. I enjoy working. I actually want to stay engaged and not just do nothing. And so I have that in my future. And so that's my candidate info page. And looking forward, I changed the name from technology philosophy to digital philosophy. I just have a tough time saying technology philosophy correctly several times. And to sum it up, as technology has advanced and its use in the classroom has increased, I'm convinced it's more important for all teachers to have a philosophy as to how technology should be integrated in the classroom. We are confronted with it as educators, and we can either embrace it or we'll be a little bit left behind, because it's what our students need for their futures, to be digitally literate. So as an educator, if I'm thoughtful and intentional about the use of technology, it can enhance the learning experience of students, and ultimately they will be better prepared for their futures. And so I think that every teacher should be aware and thoughtful about how they integrate digital use in their classroom. And so I've always looked at this as one of my, this whole process has been one of my greatest growth areas that I can think of in the last 20 years of my life. Just being in a rigorous program that demands me to be thorough in my process. And part of that reflection is the things that I express on my digital philosophy. My resume, It's for me, it's very fortunate. I actually transition quite often, probably every 3 to 5 years, as I'm very contrary to what happens to most of my colleagues in the program, because many of them, I see them at one school district for many, many years. But lately, I've been migrating about every 3 to 4 years to various schools around the globe. And so keeping an updated resume is always handy. And this is a great way to present it. I very much appreciate having gone through the process to cause that to take place. So there's my resume, and my activity evidence is collected here. Um, and so I move the buttons to be able to access each one of the areas right below the activity evidence. I didn't like the drop down menus so much. I find them a little bit inconvenient for me personally. I'm sure there's people who prefer drop down menus, but I wanted to give access in 2 dimensions. And so that will allow people to access my professional development plan. And at the bottom of my professional development plan, the buttons pop up to access my training videos. Uh, of the things that I feel the most proud of in my whole process is perhaps in my extra resources. Throughout this whole process, every class has given me at least one resource that has been useful for me in my classes. I can't say how often it's happened that I've integrated what I've been using directly into my classroom. And for me, that's a wealth of benefits for not only for me, but for my students. And so when I look at my collection, my curation of things that I've experienced over the last 2 years as I've gone through the process, my top 10 apps, top 5 blogs that I refer to, my Pinterest digital archive, and various sites that I found very, very useful. These are things that I actually get to pass on to my colleagues, and they find great benefit, because I think the best kind of professional development happens in a very organic way when colleagues simply share with one another what's taking place and what they're learning and what they're teaching and experiencing in very informal conversations around lunch tables, or just passing each other in the break room. And so a lot of these things have had a huge impact on me because I've shared them with many, many people. And so the thing that I really like in this whole process is that it really forced me to bring focus to the things that I've gathered and to present them in one concise place. So as I look at this, the final process through it, so down at the bottom are the article summaries, the training personal summaries. Each one I tried to set up in a way that it was intuitive to work through the site, listing a description, and I really was satisfied with the overall look of my portfolio when it's all done. I very much valued this process. It was a lot of work, a lot of 8-hour Saturdays, several and many throughout since starting all the way back in early January, perhaps December, to collect and organize and present all of this. But it's one of the things through my whole experience that I've appreciated the most. So thanks so much for your attention to this.